Hello everyone to Forest Focus and welcome to one of our regular listener Q&As. This one's during the international break, so lots of questions on transfers as we head towards the January window and a chance to strengthen the squad for Sean Dyche. So we'll tackle those questions kindly submitted by you, and we'll do a little bit on Arnaud Kalimuendo as well in the latest gossip in the company of, first of all, Emily Williamson. Emily, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Matt. Good to be on. Yeah. How are you?
Well, I fell asleep on the sofa just before we started recording this. But I'm all right. A little harassed, but good to have you with us. Also,
Refreshed.
well, no, not really. When you do one of those naps and you end up in a deeper sleep than after about
Yeah,
40 minutes.
yeah,
So, yeah, not refreshed.
I do.
Anyway, also good to have with us someone who's been on a couple of times before. Will WT Analysis. Will Tomlinson. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
No, good to have you with us. Look forward to your insights. Thanks everyone for the questions. As mentioned, we'll just start with Arnaud Kalimuendo. There was a tweet yesterday by Florian Plettenberg, who works for Sky Sport in Germany, one of the decent transfer journalists. He was linking Arnaud Kalimuendo with a January move to Stuttgart. It didn't say about a loan or a fee or anything like that, but worthy of discussion anyway. Emily, kick us off. Would you see it as a good off-ramp if Forest could get their money back or get him on loan to get game time, or do you think we should keep him and persist because there's a player there?
He's not had the best start, has he, to life with Nottingham Forest? For various reasons, I'm sure. He hasn't really got going with us, has he? And it's that time of year, I guess, when the January transfer window rumours are going to start coming in. When I first saw it, it didn't overly bother me. I guess the best option for us was if we could send him off on loan to get some game time and then maybe have an improved, more confident player if and when he comes back. I don't have any strong feelings for or against Kalimuendo, probably because I haven't seen enough of him. But when he has come onto the pitch, he doesn't seem to have made the impact that I think we all expected he might do. So, I mean, is it just agent talk? Is it his agent trying to drum up some interest in him? He's one of those ones, isn't he? There's that little group of players that we signed in the summer at the end of this last transfer window that haven't really got going for Forest yet. So if he does go out on loan, great for him. And if we end up selling him, well, I guess hopefully we can recoup some of that money we paid for him. But I'll be honest, I don't have strong feelings either way over him because he hasn't really done it for us yet.
No, I think so. I mean, I know Will, he has struggled when he's come on and when he started games. He hasn't looked the player that I thought he was going to be. I do think there must be a player there to do well in Rennes. But I suppose the question is, are we going to get a chance to see that at Forest, or is it a good time to take it with PSR as well to maybe have a look elsewhere?
Yeah, I think he's barely had a look in, really, has he? I think, was that his first start on Thursday last week, and he had 45 minutes at Swansea, and then over the time it's been off the bench for 10, 15 minutes, sometimes even on the wing and not up front. So it's kind of not a surprise. I think he's going to struggle to get back in the lineup if Wood's back fit. Seen as Dyche wants a one-year back in the squad and has started to play him a little bit. So it would kind of make sense for maybe both parties that if he has a little spell somewhere else, I'm not sure we should give up on him permanently yet. I guess if someone came in with exactly the same money we spent on him, then maybe you just take it because you don't really see a pathway for him into the team at the moment.
Cool. We'll get into the questions now, but just a couple of other quick things of note, mostly around Fulham. Some interesting reports that Marco Silva could be on his way. It sounds like he's not happy there and they're not overly happy with him. And funnily enough, Adama Traore has been linked with West Ham. So that could be the Nuno reunion that never happens that he would certainly want. So we'll keep an eye on that, but it doesn't really affect Forest directly now. Because we've got a manager who I think everyone seems pretty happy with, which will come into our questions, I'm sure. But let's get into the questions then, mostly around transfers initially, certainly. Thank you very much, Brian Carney and Shane Atkins, who asked similar questions. Brian asks, where do you think the manager will look to recruit in January? And Shane asks, what would you consider to be the transfer priority in January? In, not out, Shane asks. So, Will, kick us off. Where do you think we'll look to recruit and where would you be recruiting?
I think it kind of depends on what the squad looks like and who they want to get rid of, because obviously the squad's maxed out, right? The European squad's we've already got too many players for that, and the Premier League squad, if either was fit, then a one you wouldn't even be in the squad. But I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them look at a left back who's a natural left back. I think Zinchenko's got a lot of talent, but he's not your sort of prototypical Dyche left back. So I wouldn't be surprised if they looked there and maybe tried to send him back to Arsenal. And then we touched on Kalimuendo earlier. I think he's the other kind of obvious one that might depart, and they may want to try and replace him as another versatile forward who maybe matches what Dyche looks for a little bit. But I think first one for me is definitely left back, because even with Zinchenko, you've not got a natural left back there. Williams plays really well there, maybe even better on the left than he does on the right, but he's not a left footer, and I think that can harm us sometimes. So I think maybe left back is where I'd be looking first.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this morning, Emily, the only one that I really thought of was a left-footed left back. Otherwise, I think we're quite well catered for, especially when Ola comes back. Were you thinking anywhere different or not?
No, I immediately thought fullbacks. That's the one area, isn't it, that we're not even. We haven't even got sufficient cover at the moment. Obviously, with Oleksandr injured, Savona's doing his part, isn't he? But it's not ideal. And I think we need, when our squad's back fit, we need Nico, Ola, and then I would say two of the fullbacks as backup, because I feel like in every other position we're pretty well stocked. I had a brief thought about possibly goalkeepers, because John's not really set the world alight in his.
He's on the shortlist for best goalkeeper in the world. I think
yeah, he certainly is, and good, good on him for that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that if Sells is to get injured, where do we turn to? I'm not sure what the latest is on Angus Gunn. Is he still with us?
He's still with us. He's injured. I think
he's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not happy.
He said he wants to go, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess if we were going to, really look elsewhere, I'd say possibly goalkeepers. But I think actually we've got a really good squad, and like Will just said, we're overcated in every department, and we've got a full Europa squad, full Premier League squad. So I think it's just about sort of tweaking. But it is those fullbacks, isn't it, that we desperately need? I think the backups to Ola and Nico.
Is Zach Abbott a viable option for you, Will? Are we getting ahead of ourselves from a decent showing off the bench in Graz? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, at fullback, at right back. Yeah, I don't know if you want to see him at left back.
No.
I think he's already playing out of position when he goes to right back or right wing back anyway. I think ideally he's a centre back, and then maybe throwing him on the other side is probably a bit harsh for him. It's a tough one. I'd like to see him play more, but I'd like to see Cunha play more. And neither of them are going to get too much game time, I would imagine, as the season goes on. Maybe as it gets a bit busier and maybe some injuries happen, but I think Abbott can take that role as almost the fifth fullback that Emily's talking about. At the moment, he's essentially the fourth. So I think if you brought in that natural left footer on the other side, and Abbott can cover on the right, knowing that Williams and Aina can both do the left as well.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about Aina as a left back. We are a slightly unbalanced squad because we've got, I agree with Will about Jaya Cunha. We've got Willy Bolly there as well. I assume this is his last season, but it'd be interesting to see what we do. Talking of what we do then, I'll ask this one from David Grasson because Will's touched on it already a bit. He says, as good as they are when they're fit, with the expense and risk involved, would you be happy if Forest cancelled the loans of Douglas Luiz and Zinchenko in January to allow Forest to bring in a couple of other players who would offer more contribution in what's a long, hard season? So what do you think, Emily? We discussed injuries around Luiz and we've mentioned Zinchenko a couple of times. Is it worth terminating their loans or would you keep them?
Definitely not Luiz.
If we can.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely not Luiz, because I think what he brings to the party when he's on the pitch, we don't get from anyone else. And he has moments of being world class actually, but it's about keeping him fit, isn't it? And I know there was talk about this potential sort of long-term condition he might have, but I wouldn't want to send him back. Absolutely not. Zinchenko, he's a trier, isn't he? But he's just not quite there. And like Will said, he doesn't seem to fit into the Dyche way of playing football. He's desperate to invert and he wants to push forward, but his defensive capabilities leave a lot to be desired. And I think that, I guess if we were going to lose one, maybe send him back. But again, as I said in the previous answer, we're desperate for fullbacks, so maybe we keep him as well. And the risk is as well, if we bring two other players in January and they don't work, then we're kind of back to square one. And I just really like what I see from Douglas Luiz, and I just hope we can get him back in the squad soon.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I doubt Arsenal would want him back. I think they'll want to keep him away. And Douglas Luiz is probably a baked-in contract anyway. I would send Zinchenko back if I could, because I think he doesn't look the player that I thought we were getting after the injuries that feel like they've bitten him. We've got Koulibaly coming back in January. I don't know if he's better, but I feel like I'd rather get him off the wage bill and free up a spot if we can, personally. So you would send Zinchenko back, Will. Where are you at on Luiz?
Yeah, I think I would send Zinchenko back if I had to choose now. But then my kind of thought is, if you're getting someone else in on loan to replace them, they're going to be in a similar position to the players we've already got that aren't in the squad, and they're not going to be match fit. So you kind of have to weigh that up a little bit and think you only can do it if you know you're going to get someone in who's fit and better, because otherwise you're just going to be in the same position. Koulibaly is playing quite a lot in Brazil, but I think he's got some defensive deficiencies as well. So that's a tricky one as to whether he can just come straight in and be that backup left back. I think Douglas Luiz, I would still keep, but the injuries are a bit of a worry, and they were a worry for me in the summer as well. You know, he's not really played consistently for over a season now, almost a season and a half, and that tends to catch up with some players, and they never really get back to where they were. But I think it's probably too early to cancel that, because perhaps we can manage his minutes a little bit better and get the most of him, or get the best out of him over the next few months, because I imagine he'll be back pretty soon after the international break.
I do think Zinchenko will be an option more off the bench, and he can play in midfield. But if he has to start games at left back, then I'm just not sure he's of the level that we need, which is a shame because he was such a top player.
Yeah, and I think he could do a job in midfield as well, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think he's where he started. He was just kind of shoehorned into the Man City side at left back, and then same with Arsenal, because they have all the ball and it works. Whereas, although we've had more possession than I think we thought we would have under Dyche, it's not the same way of playing. So I think he's probably got a better future with us in midfield than he has at left back, and we've got a lot of midfielders. So for that reason, he's probably the one to go.
Yeah, I think so. Let's ask this one from Danscape, who's on this podcast quite a lot, I know. But it's an interesting question. If by chance we needed, this is a bit of a hypothetical one. If by chance we need to fill a decent PSR hole before June the 30th with a big sale, I'm not sure that's hypothetical. I think that's probably right. Which of these pretend options would you take? Number one, sell Elliot Anderson for 100 million in January. Sell Morgan Gibbs-White for 60 million in January. Sell Elliot Anderson for 60 million on June the 29th to balance the books and avoid a points penalty. Just some intel on Anderson, sort of intel. This is from one person. It's an interesting source, and saying that what I heard, he's not looking to go in January at all. And all this talk of Man United, I don't know if they're top of his list if he were to want to go anyway. I think he might be looking at different clubs. But I like the Man United fans are getting giddy about buying him. And again, Plettenberg saying that Man United are really keen and Forest want 100 to 120 million, which feels like the right fee to me. Emily Williamson, I got tricked by too many Andersons there. What would you do in those three potential scenarios?
I hate that question. That is a horrible, horrible question that I don't particularly want to answer, because I hate all the options. God, I talk about Elliot Anderson all the time, and I love watching him play, and I love the fact that he's part of our squad. And I keep being reminded by non-Forest fans, enjoy him while you've got him, because he's probably going in January, if not in the summer. And, maybe he will, but I'm not ready to let him go yet, and certainly not to Man United. I feel like the dream move for him would be to go back to Newcastle and live out his dreams there. And I think, with a heavy heart, I would allow him to go, but certainly not in January. I want to keep hold of him as long as possible. And actually, we know that when Morgan Gibbs-White plays well, Forest play well, and he's starting to find his form again, find some confidence. He's scored 2 decent goals. So again, I don't think he's an option to get rid of. So can I just say none of the above? I don't want to get rid of any of them at any point. But I guess, oh God, if we had to, Anderson at the end of the season. But again, it would be with a really heavy heart. I wouldn't want to lose either of them.
No, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a bidding war, I'm sure. I'm sure we get more than 60 million for him on June the 29th anyway. So I don't think it would come to it. Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose one of those imaginary scenarios, I'd probably sell Morgan for 60 million because I think that's what his value is at most. I think you'd
I
get the
think that would
most.
be detrimental. I just think losing him in January, as much as he's not been great so far, I think it would be like a pack of cards going down, I think, in that dressing room. Because even though he's not been firing, he's integral, I think, to our success.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing as quite as badly as people have said either. He's still putting
No.
up some useful numbers, and
And I
we've
thought it
backed
was really
him.
interesting what Franz Carr said, actually. Was it yesterday on the podcast? He talked about the fact that actually maybe he is doing too much and Sean Dyche is going to free him up a little bit. And it means that he can excel. So maybe as well as having a bit of he's not got a lot of confidence at the moment, he also maybe will play slightly different under Dyche. So I'd be loath to let him go in January.
Yeah, we've backed him quite a lot on here, and people say we backed him too much. But I would, the imaginary scenario, that's what I do. But I think he is integral to us. Will, same question, but probably a more broader question actually, because it is just a notional scenario. But where are you at on Morgan, his role in the team, and do you like what he's doing, what Dyche is doing with him now?
Yeah, I mean, on the first bit, I wouldn't want to do any of those three either. But if I had to, I'd sell Morgan. I think having the thought of not having Anderson for the second half of the season would worry me a little bit, considering we're probably still going to be towards the bottom at Christmas, whether we're in the relegation zone or not. I think we'd get by much better with Anderson in the team than Gibbs-White, but ideally we keep all three or don't do those options and make a lot of money in the summer. I think on Gibbs-White, I think his form hasn't been great since the first game of the season. He's looked better the last two. The Man United game, I thought he was good. I thought on Sunday he was good. And what I've kind of noticed is he's getting involved less deeper in the pitch, and Dyche is trying to get him involved higher up, where he can have a bit more effect in a positive way. And when things do go wrong, it doesn't affect the team negatively as much either because it's higher up the pitch. And I think I had a look at it today. His received passes are down per game, but the share of them in the final third is higher than it's been all season. So there's definitely an idea, I think, that they're trying to get him on the ball where he can do the most damage to the opposition team. Whereas perhaps in the previous few months, he's been getting on the ball where he's been doing a bit more damage to us when it's gone wrong. I've always been a bit on the fence as to whether you drop him or not. I think he's so important. You have to help play him into form. And it looks like, hopefully, that's starting to happen. And this little reset for the next 2 weeks where he's not in the squad perhaps can give him a bit of a break and realise that he is doing too much. And if he just gets back to his basics, which got him into the England talk in the first place, then that will help everybody going forward. So I think we should see the best of him in the lead up to Christmas, hopefully.
I didn't want to drop him because I think he's so integral to us. But I suppose has the problem been, Will, when he's had a bad game, he's had some really bad games, and you want more consistency. He's still wildly inconsistent, but he's putting up some better games now. But when he's been bad, he's been really bad. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily a drop for me. It was more hook him off, take him off for 15 minutes. You had someone like McAtee, not in every game, but McAtee's been there on the bench, and there has been options on the bench. It's clearly not working, so take him off in this game and say, unlucky mate, you're back in next week and go back to it. But that's not even happened either. But I think, yeah, you're right. When he has been bad, it has been pretty bad. And then because of the form that the team has been anyway, it's kind of just put a bit of a focus on it. He's missing one of his favourite players to thread the ball through to in Elanga. And Doy has started off a little bit slowly, but I think he's getting better, but he's not the same player. So Gibbs-White is trying to get used to that as well. He's not had Chris Wood up front. So there's a lot of change for him in that final third as well. But yeah, I think I'm just hoping we can get him back to his best in the next few weeks and help us move up the table a little bit.
Before we crack on with the other questions, let's take a word for the Trent navigation. The weekly offers are on screen. Also, supplemental to that, England's play on Thursday at Wembley. So that game will be on TV and you can enjoy it at the Nav. This is going out on Wednesday night, I think. So pizzas are on offer. Thursdays is pie night as well. So I don't know if you get a cheap pie and enjoy the England game. And then eventually we'll get to discount chippy teas and Sunday roasts. Emily Anderson, what's your favourite Sunday roast?
Roast beef, Yorkshire puddings, roast potatoes, cauliflower cheese. Ooh, yeah, I
Got
love it. I love a
detail.
roast. Hey? Huh?
Detail. I like it.
Yeah, no,
Detail.
I do love a roast dinner, and roast beef is definitely my favourite. Nice and rare, a little bit pink, beautiful. And
Lovely.
Yorkshire puddings are an absolute must, like in any roast dinner. In fact, I'd have them with every dinner. I love Yorkshire puddings so much.
I'll have them with every roast, definitely. Will,
Oh
same
yeah.
question.
I'm not a massive fan of roast dinners, actually,
Oh,
controversially. But if I had to pick, I do like a lamb roast dinner, and I'm also
Mm.
having the Yorkshire puddings to go with it as well.
yes, lamb and Yorkshire puddings for me. Although you've gone down in my estimation with that answer anyway, Will, for not being a fan of roast
Sorry.
dinners. Right, back to the questions. Steve Oldham, thank you very much. If everyone is fit, what is our best 11? I don't know if you've written anything down, but I've done a graphic so you guys can talk around it anyway, which I shall put on screen now. This is what I think. I don't know if this is what I think it is or what Dyche thinks it is, but we have got Sells in goal, Oleksandr, obviously, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams, and then Anderson and Douglas Luiz. I've got Dan Ndoye and Callum Hudson-Odoi as the wingers, Morgan Gibbs-White, and I still think Chris Wood is first choice striker. And obviously, there's questions around Amari Hutchinson after how well he did, and Backwell's in there as well. But Emily, I think Dan Ndoye is going to be an integral player under Dyche because of what he offers without the ball, and I think he'll probably still favour Callum when he's fit. But would that be your 11 or the 11 Dyche will pick, or would you have different names in there?
That looks pretty good to me. I had to think about it earlier when you sent me this question through, and I think obviously Sales in the back four pick themselves, don't we? And isn't it wonderful to see Oleraina's face there smiling away? I can't wait to have him back on the pitch. Anderson and Douglas Luiz, absolutely. And the only sticking point for me is who do you have up front? Is it Jesus or is it Wood? And also the wingers. I think Hudson-Odoi definitely on the left, but there is a question mark now, isn't there? Do we slowly integrate Amari Hutchinson and then he slowly probably becomes one of our best wingers? I would certainly stick with Wood for now. And you're right. I think the way Ndoye plays will work really well under Dyche, but I'm really excited to see how Amari Hutchinson's going to develop. He's had an awful lot of heat on his transfer fee, and there's been a lot of arguments among the fan base about why he's not starting, why he wasn't in the European squad. But he's clearly a slow burn for Forest and a slow burn for Sean Dyche, and it sounds like Sean's put an arm around his shoulder and given him that little boost of confidence. And it was just an utter delight to watch him perform on Sunday. But what I wouldn't want to do is rush him into the team, rush him into the starting 11, and then, not every single game is going to work, especially for wingers. So I would say at the moment, yeah, that looks pretty bob on for me.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope Dylan Backwell can play a role when he's fit and available. I still think there's hope there for him, especially for all the money spent. What about you, Will? Best 11, how would that look?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Emily has just said, actually. If the last game of the season was tomorrow and everybody was fit and Forest had to win it, I think this is the 11 that Dyche would go for. And this, I agree with Hutchinson as well. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's not going to be fit enough to start games at the moment, I don't think, if we base it on how McAtee and Kalimuendo were last week with similar amounts of game time. But there's a real chance that he could force his way into either wing if you think that Ndoye can play on both, and probably prefers to be on the left anyway. But I think, yeah, this is the lineup that would be picked if everyone was fit.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Hutchinson has played a lot of football as a number 10. I'd be interested to see what he could do in that role. Whether he's too lightweight to play in a central position for Dyche, I don't know. It would be interesting, but he does have that option. Talking of formations and different roles then, Christian Tonies, thank you for your question, channel member Christian. Here's my question. If we play 4-4-2, which apparently Sean likes to do, well, he did at Burnley. I don't think he's done it so much since. Would you play Taiwo and Jesus up front, or Chris Wood when fit with Taiwo? I hear a lot of people saying he likes to play 4-4-2, so I'm interested in your thoughts on this. 4-4-2, Will, are we almost seeing it a bit with Morgan or now or not?
Yeah, we're not seeing it like completely, because Morgan's got that license to roam around the pitch when we've got the ball, especially in the final third. And I think the second, or his goal on Sunday, is a perfect example of that. He's peeled onto the fullback to kind of push him in a little bit to give Hutchinson some space on the wing, and then he can kind of ghost in a little bit, which was bad defending really from Leeds. But I think from a a 4-4-2 point of view, if you had to and you wanted strikers in there, I'd probably go with Wood and Jesus rather than Taiwo. I think Jesus can drop a bit deeper, even though it's not necessarily what he wants to do, and link the play a little bit. But then if you're playing 4-4-2 and you want two strikers, I don't think you can play Gibbs White in a midfield four, certainly not in the middle. Maybe you can play him on the right or the left. But I think if you're going to do it, you're kind of seeing it when we've not got the ball. If you watch how we set up when Leeds were playing out from the back, it is a 4-4-2 with Gibbs White and Jesus kind of looking after the centre-backs when they're in possession. But yeah, on the question itself, I think I'd rather start with Wood and Jesus rather than Taiwo and Jesus at this point.
Yeah, I've spoken a bit about Morgan playing deeper, and I think I got that wrong because I often get things wrong on here. I don't think he can do it. I thought he could, but when you see him this season with the ball deeper and without the ball, maybe it's a form thing. Maybe if he's in top form, maybe he could do it. But I'm actually perhaps revise my opinion, and he is more attacking. Emily, feel free to weigh in on that, but also. Just let's comment on Taiwo a little bit. I mean, it's interesting that the resurrection, almost literally, of Taiwo. The guy was in a coma not long ago, and now he's coming off the bench. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do think he played well on Sunday when he came on.
He's my cup of tea, definitely. I love that he's got something that no one else in our squad has got, and that holding up the ball ability is incredible. He's so strong. He's like an ox, and the only thing he's missing at the moment is the goals. We know he can score goals because he did a couple of seasons ago for us, but I just think he's a great little tool in Sean Dyche's armoury to have off the bench. I don't think he's a starter at the moment, and I still think, unfortunately for him, I can't see him usurping Wood or Jesus really as to getting in the starting lineup. And I agree with Will, actually. I can't see how he'd work with two strikers on the pitch at the same time. I'm equally slightly worried about how Chris Wood would be as well, because am I right in thinking in pre-season they tried the 4-4-2 and he played alongside Jesus?
They did it against Fulham last season, didn't they?
Yeah, it didn't really work, and it just felt really awkward. But having said that, Morgan seems more accustomed to doing that, and we've seen that because he scored two-headed goals because he was pushed further up the pitch. But no, I'm all for the resurrection of Taiwo Awoniyi, and I think the City ground would explode if he scores a goal soon. So hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later, because he just needs to find the back of the net. I know when he was injured, before he had his horrific injury, I know he had some issues, and I think he was one that was really low on confidence, and he needed some sort of help to sort of get through mentally. So I really hope that he can find his scoring boots, because I think he's great. I love him in our squad.
I can't see. I referenced that Fulham game. I don't see how Wood and Taiwo work as a pair personally. Jesus does. I could see Jesus working because he does like to drop deep. If anything, he likes to drop too deep, doesn't he? Will sometimes, but they might work, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and on Taiwo, I love the guy. I love seeing him come off the bench with half an hour left. I don't know whether you were both there on Sunday, but the crowd just gets up as soon as he comes on the pitch. They did the week before as well. And that's enough for me just to see that, because, the guy kept us up in the first season with all those goals. And even the second season, him and Wood, when one of them was fit, they were scoring. And then when the other was injured, the other one was scoring. So it's nice to see him back. I'm not entirely sure if he can get back to what he was like when we first had him, but I just love seeing him on the pitch, and I'm a little bit biased when it comes to that. But on Jesus, he can drop deep, and he does. And like you say, I think sometimes he maybe does it a little bit too much to try and get involved. But it's definitely not his game from what I was watching in the summer. He just wants to be in the box and shoot. And that's why I would struggle with the 4-4-2 as it is, because I don't really see the idea of who the second striker would be unless it was Morgan. And like you say, we're kind of already seeing it anyway with the amount of times we're seeing Gibbs White pop up in the box with headers at the back or front post. So I wouldn't be playing the two strikers at the moment unless we're really chasing a game. Yeah,
there was that one bit from Taiwo where against Leeds where he pulled it down and turned his man, I think it was Joe Rodon, and laid it off. And I thought, he's getting back. But yeah, he's got to score goals. He's got to score goals, obviously. Talking of strikers, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at some data, Will, but a question from Steve Battlemuch, who's on this podcast on Thursday as well. Any data from Will on how many headers are won in our box by Chris Wood defending corners? Are we worse when he's not playing? That's a very specific question. I don't know if you've had a chance to look or not.
Yeah, it's not one I can answer like directly from corners, but I had a little look, and And this season, if you look at centre forwards and who has had the most actions in their own 6-yard box and penalty box per 90, so not total. So we've taken into account how much he's played. He's 13th out of 23. So he's right in the middle of strikers doing defensive work. And that isn't just from set pieces, but how many times is a centre forward going to be at the back? It's probably from set pieces. Last season, he was 6th. So it's gone down a little bit. What I will say about his role last season and this season is he's always been given the back post zonal marking role, which has always been Forest's weakest area, because I think the season when we started with Turner and Vlachodimos and then moved into Sells, the near post was the big weakness under Cooper and Nuno. We changed that last summer to really flood the near post with our best headers of the ball, and just kind of said to Wood, well, you're the next tallest guy, you can go to the back post. And he generally did a really good job there. But I'm not sure there's anything in it to say that Wood missing. I'm not sure that's what Steve is saying, by the way. But Wood's obviously not played as much this year, but I'm not sure his absence is why Forest have conceded a lot of set-piece goals. He has played in a few games where we've conceded them. I think Arsenal, Sunderland, I think he was playing in that game as well. So he has been on for his fair share of them as well. But as far as his output, this season at least, it's bang in the middle of centre forwards doing defensive work in their own box.
Do follow Will on Twitter at WT_analysis. He did some interesting stuff on our set piece setup. And ironically, I've got James Belshaw to look at it anyway. So I'll send that to Belly and he can piggyback on it next week. There's one other thing about set pieces. This is a really fringe thing. Did anyone notice in the Leeds game, they had a free kick. They took it short. Joe Rodon was standing 5 yards off our defence and no one was picking him up, and it was so like the Sunderland and Michelin goals, and I really hope we've done something to solve that. But Leeds, who were absolutely crap, by the way, as I've said repeatedly, didn't put the ball in the box, but it did worry me a bit that we weren't picking up a guy who scored 2 or 3 goals, I think, with his head already this season. That was a real side point, but it worried me during the game anyway. Right, back to the questions. This is probably just a quick one that we can go through from Leo Beecroft. Thank you for the question, Leo. Would we have been better saving our first choice winger, Hudson-Odoi? We can debate if he's a first choice winger, possibly, for the league and having Hutchinson in the Europa squad, or is that too hindsight biased? I think it is a bit, Emily, but what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about Amari Hutchinson. You can see he's developing into a really talented player. I mean, he is a talented player. We saw what he did for Ipswich, but yes, he had a great game in his cameo against Leeds. 2 assists. He was brilliant. It was wonderful to see. But I still think that he's a player that needs a lot of guidance. He needs an arm around the shoulder. He's very young. He's we talked about him on the podcast being quite introverted and maybe not quite mixing as well as he could. So it's going to take him a bit of time to get comfortable in the squad. It will be really disappointing for him that he's not in the Europa squad. And I'm sure when he watches Forest in Europe, he's probably desperate to be there, but we all know we can shuffle the pack in January, and maybe that's the time to introduce him. But I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable either not having Callum Hudson-Odoi in our Europa squad, because we know what he can bring. So it's no disrespect to Amari Hutchinson at all, because I think he's a great player and I think he's got a lot to learn, and I think he's still improving. I just don't think it's right yet, even though he had a great performance against Leeds.
Yeah, I think if we'd left any of our wingers out of that Europa League squad, we'd have complained with some degree of justification, and I'd have left Willy Bolly out of it personally. So Will, feel free to weigh in on that. But also, if you were ranking the 4 wingers in terms of importance, so Hudson-Odoi, Ndoi, Bakwa, Hutchinson, just out of curiosity, maybe for you or maybe how you think Dyche would rate them, who are the most important ones right now?
Oh, you've sprung that one on me, haven't you? I think from the squad, I think the only reason we would have seen first choice players not be in the squad would have been if it was the Conference League. I think when it's the Europa League, they're always going to try and pick the best available squad, and we don't know who picked that squad, whether it was Nuno, whether it was the guys higher up than him. I'd like to think they had an input if they kind of thought that Nuno was going to be going a week later. But one of them, like you say, was always going to have to miss out. If it wasn't going to be Hutchinson, it was going to be McAtee or Kalimuendo or someone like that. So I think it is a bit of a hindsight to look back at that. I think the prize of the Europa League and the aims that the club had at the start of the season were to do well in both. So they weren't going to rest someone from the European squad. as far as the ranking of the wingers go, I think the way Dyche is probably looking at it, I think he probably has Hudson-Odoi as his number one. And then as it stands at the moment, mostly because of the game time, it'd probably be Ndoi second, Hutchinson third, and Backward fourth. But we've not really seen Backward do anything because he's barely had the time to do it. I think he had a bit of a cameo at Arsenal where he looked really good. I think he had some moments against Swansea, and then I think the Burnley game, I didn't really like what I saw in that game in isolation. So it's difficult for me to put him higher than last, just because we've not seen enough of him yet. That doesn't mean that he's the worst one. We've not seen it with our own eyes, have we?
No, I think that's fair. I agree entirely with that. This is a good question, but a difficult one to answer from Edwards. So Capanosti and Function on Twitter. Can off-field disruption really have such a dramatic effect on player fitness? Structures around the squad appear to have been built on sand. They dissolve so quickly. I ask it more for the second sentence, Emily, because I think it is interesting how quickly things can get away from us, which they really, really did. I don't know. I think we're coming back and all that kind of stuff. But I think Edward's got a point that the sand is probably a good analogy, is it or not?
Yeah, but I mean, the only people that know what's really going on are the people at the club and the players, the staff, and the people behind the scenes. So it's all, we're all just speculating, really, aren't we? It would make sense, wouldn't it, the fitness thing, because it really hit us at the end of last season. We said that they were just really tired because they'd overperformed all season, but maybe there was an issue with fitness that Sean Dyche is trying to work on now. In his first post-match interview, he mentioned fitness quite a lot, to the point where I thought, oh, this is clearly something he really wants to work on. So yeah, it is a bit of a worry, but I feel like we're starting to go on that upward trajectory now. I don't think everything's fixed. I still think there'll be players that aren't fully fit, and there'll be players that maybe need to work a bit harder in training, possibly. But I feel really confident that Sean Dyche will get us there, and I'm quite positive about it, actually. I'm not overly worried about that at all, really. I know it was Leeds and you can only play who's in front of you, but it already felt like the squad were, I don't know, a bit more resilient on Sunday and a bit more able to make, to play for 90 minutes, unlike when we played Sturm Graz in the week.
Yeah, it was a pretty funny clip on Twitter I saw from Ola Reiner's social media of Nicolas Dominguez looking absolutely gassed in the dressing room after a session. I think he said Dyche's destroyed him or something like that. So it's quite good to see, actually. They're getting fit. Excuse me. Sort of side thing again, Will. It's interesting that the players that are mostly being picked are the players who are the core players from last year. Is fitness partly a factor in that or not, do you think?
Yeah, I think the players that he's picking are the ones that have played the most games anyway, probably apart from Dominguez. But Dominguez's engine is probably second to none. The guy is super fit and he just never stops running. I think Dyche came in straight away, like Emily says, and he spoke about fitness quite a lot, but he then kept on saying my kind of fitness, and how he wasn't slating other people. And I just kind of think that it might be getting a bit misinterpreted. I don't think the squad is unfit. I think the style that Andrew's trying to put on the team, they need to run all the time. It's high priority, but it's not like massive sprints. Whereas I think when you are a team like we were last year and what we're probably going to be again this season, you need those short moments, big bursts of high intensity sprints and things like that, which perhaps the squad can't deal with because they were learning something different under Ange. So I think that's probably what he's getting at, in that they're not set up in the right way for his kind of football. But, I'm as far from an athlete as it becomes. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask on those kind of things, really.
We'll try and rattle through as many of the remaining questions as we can in just a minute. But before that, thank you very much to Vesta Blinds for sponsoring this show. If you're looking for made-to-measure shutters or blind in the East Mids, especially in the Notts area, click the link in the description. It's vestablinds.com to see what they can do for you. So thanks to those guys, as ever. Run by a Forest fan, as all the businesses who sponsor us are, I think. Right. There's one here. Will, I'll throw this to you because you might, I don't know if you do these kind of data projections or anything. Janet Jenkins, it appears Burnley and Leeds might be hitting a cooling off period. Wolves in danger of threatening Derby's record as of right now. think I'll probably get more points than that, but you never know. Does 33 points mean safety this season? I think it might be higher. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to need more than 33, or a team is going to need more than 33. I think the Wolves are the outlier, right? They've got, was it 2 points from a possible 33? I mean, I'll be upset if they haven't got 12 by the end of the season. I'm sure they probably will. I think they've got enough talent individually in that team and squad to pick up some points just from Strand Larsen scoring 2 goals out of nowhere and winning the game 2-1, for example. I don't think 33 is going to be enough. I think you're probably looking in the mid to high 30s, somewhere around 37, 38. But I guess you never know, really. I think Leeds, their underlying data this season until they played us has actually been pretty good. I think they've been unlucky in a few games to not pick up more points. But as you've said a few times today and in other days, Matt, they were pretty rubbish on Sunday, and I didn't see anything there that should worry Forest fans to think that we're in trouble if we can't get above these guys. So yeah, I think personally Forest will be okay, but I don't think 33 would be enough. I think you need to be looking to get around 38, 40 to make sure, and I think we're on track probably to get more than that under Dyche.
Yeah, I think so. I think Burnley. I think Burnley will go down, but I think they'll pick up points. They look quite well organised, and also, I mean, I know I've said Leeds are crap. I think Leeds are going to be crap away from home. At home, they look slightly different beast. They're quite physical. That Ellen Road crowd is a weapon. So I think, both teams I think are going to get more points than the previous promoted teams. So I agree with Will there, certainly. The same sort of theme, Emily. Simon Ball, looking specifically at us, what counts as a good season now for Forest?
Not to get relegated, I think, is the first port of call. Get out of the relegation zone would be fantastic. I think a realistic position for us would be anywhere between 12th and 14th. I'd be delighted with that. And, that finished last season, but I think to me that would be a good season, especially if we can have a really good run in the Europa League, i.e. win the Europa League, finish 12th. Perfect. Yeah, I'll take that. But yeah, in all seriousness, not to get relegated is my ultimate goal. And I agree. I think Wolves, Burnley, Leeds, but potentially Fulham could get dragged into it, especially with the whole talk that Marco Silva might be going. And then I guess hopefully we'll just be a little bit above those, and then I'll be happy. And in terms of points, I just always want to get that magic 40 points. I know that's old school, but if we can just reach 40, feels a long way off right now, doesn't it? When we're set on 9 points, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, I think January's going to be really interesting. Ivan Toney's name's floating around a lot already for does he go to an Everton or a West Ham, or does he go to a Spurs, or does he stay where he is? But someone's going to make some significant moves. Fulham must have a ton of money to spend because they haven't backed their manager, so you would still think they'll get out of it. Same sort of question, Will, but also, can we win the Europa League or not?
Oh, I mean, I hope so. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's a big ask. You've got a set of players there that probably aren't really that used to winning anything, which I think is something to keep in mind when it gets to those later stages if we get there. I think the question being, what is a good season? I think a good season now is to get to sort of the end of April and not have to worry about being relegated and hopefully still be in Europe by then. I think it's kind of a separate question if you say what is an acceptable one. An acceptable one is just staying up now, which is kind of sad to say considering where we were in August and what we were hoping for. But yeah, a good one for me is if you can get to those last 4 games and enjoy them because you don't have to worry about other results going in. And if you can get into March and April when you're still in If then who knows, if the draw's kind like it was for both Spurs and Man U last season, then you never know who can get to the final.
Question from John Michael White. Thank you very much. Do you think there are players who won't now be happy that they've changed manager again with Ange gone and Dyche coming in? I thought it's a bit of a winners and losers question, Emily. I don't think there will be really.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe Zinchenko
was the
only
squad.
one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through the squad thinking about who we've got and how they played under Ange. It was such a small sample size that it's really hard to judge. But yeah, apart from Zinchenko, who probably enjoyed that sort of high press, high line type jobby. No, I don't think so. I think probably in the players' minds, they just want a bit of stability to be settled, and they seem to be they seem to be enjoying having Sean Dyche there. So no, I think they're probably just a bit fed up with us changing managers every 5 minutes. So I think they'd quite like just for Sean Dyche to stay for a while. Just interestingly, actually, on a slight side point, when you mentioned Marco Silva at the beginning, when Ange was sacked and there was all talk of who's going to come to Forest, and we were all getting overexcited about Marco Silva. Now that he's potentially available, I don't want him because I'm quite happy with Sean Dyche, and I'm sure most fans will think that now. I'd hope so. I just feel like we're not interested. Isn't it funny how a few weeks can make such a difference? So for me, yeah, Dyche all the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him now. I'm happy with
No.
Dyche. Do you think he's a good manager? I mean, I think he might be the
Oh
next
yeah.
Leeds
Oh god,
manager
yeah.
or something like that. But yeah, something like that. Yeah, I could see Silva ending up there, certainly. Kalimuendo, Will, maybe the only other name I could think of who might not be very happy at the moment. If that's a manager thing or just a football thing, I don't know.
Yeah, both. But then Ange wasn't really playing him either, and when he did, he
No.
threw him on the wing. So when I saw that question, I thought the same in Zinchenko, and I thought for maybe a slightly different reason, maybe Sells isn't too chuffed with Dyche, just because I think Dyche probably expects a lot from his goalkeepers when it comes to balls in the box, and we know that's not Sells' strong point. But then on the other hand, Ange was asking him to make short passes out of the box, and that's not Sells' strong point either, and Dyche is going to ask him to do that. So he's probably a bit 50-50 on it, really.
Yeah, I think so. One player who I think probably is happy with his lot compared to a few weeks ago is Ryan Yates. Question from Gareth Fowler. How underrated is Ryan Yates? I feel that whenever he's on the pitch, the team do better. I'd love to see if there's any stats to match the eye test. A question that will have half our fans agreeing, half our fans disagreeing from Gareth. But Will, any stats to back up the eye test that Yates is a difference maker or not?
So last season was the first time since we got promoted that Yates had a worse goal difference per 90 than the team did, if that makes sense. So when Yates was on the pitch, Forest were having a better goal difference until last season when it was slightly worse. It's the first time since we got promoted. This season, in a really small sample size, he's got the third best goal difference. He's level at 0 in the Premier League, but he has only played about 250 minutes. So there is that. I think Yates has got his moments and his games that is perfect for him, and other ones that are perhaps not so much. I think ideally you don't play Yates away at Graz because you need someone who can progress the ball a bit better with Sangare. But then the Man United game, it was no surprise to see him be the first one off the bench because he's exactly the kind of player that you want against, I think, that midfield. And then you add in his kind of historical performances against them as well. So I think he's got moments where opponents where he is the better option in midfield, or maybe the third best option in midfield. And there's other ones where he's probably the fourth or fifth. But I just think a lot of it is kind of over magnified on him, and he's an easy person to dislike because of his deficiencies when he's got some stuff that is better than the other guys. And if you listen to all the players talk about him, they all say he kind of sets the standard in the dressing room, both on and off the pitch. And Dyche says the same thing. So I think, as it is most of the time, people go too far one way and too far the other. I think he's got a massive role to play in the squad, and he will do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, the players do rate him. They say he's underrated as a footballer. I think he's the same with Sangare. I think, Emily, people go too far one way or the other. Is he good? Is he bad? That kind of thing. But he does. I mean, this season, especially when we're a struggling team, I think you see his value, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything Will said about Ryan Yates, and there is a section of the fan base that won't have him no matter what. Fair play to them, you're entitled to your opinion, but he's very valuable in our squad, as is Sangare, and Sangare's really showing that the quality that he's got now, isn't he? I was, really pleased for him that he got his first goal for Forest at the weekend. But yeah, I there's nothing more I can say, because whatever I say about Ryan Yates will irritate a certain fan base. So not saying anymore.
You were literally not saying anymore. You said so and went silent. I didn't know if you were done or not.
I've talked about Ryan Yates before, and all it does is it brings out the trolls. So there's no point.
No. I mean, there's a midfield.
Will said it all, hasn't he? Will said it all. There absolutely is a midfield pecking order, and we have a really talented midfield. And we know about Anderson, we know about Douglas Luiz, Dominguez, Sangare. We've got some really great midfielders. But there are certain games, certain situations, as Will said, when the player that needs to come off the bench is Ryan Yates, and he does a job.
I agree. I did, and people won't like this either. And I've lost my notes, but when we were discussing Anderson, I did look at a couple of players who could replace him from internally in the Premier League. I don't know if you thought about this, Will. I know. I'll just throw the names out as possible signings for next season from Wolves. João Gomez and Andre put up very good numbers in certain areas of the game. They're not Elliot Anderson, but I know people are not talking about next season's players and possible replacements for Anderson. But I'm going to throw those names at Will to see if he thinks they might be decent options.
Yeah, I like both of those players in isolation, to be fair. I think from memory, João Gomez loves the yellow card, and Anderson also loved the yellow card last season. I think he had the joint most in the team. If I had to pick one or the other, I think I'd probably go with Andre, but you're not going to get the same player from either of those two because Anderson, I think, can do everything. That's not to say he's the best in the league at everything, but I don't think there's really a massive weakness in his game, apart from perhaps scoring goals. But I think that would come in a team that has more of the ball and ask him to do more in the final third. But yeah, I like both of those guys. And from memory, I think Andre was linked with Forest before Wolves signed him as well. So perhaps that's something to keep an eye on, especially if Wolves don't pick up points between now and the end of the year.
Even if Elliot Anderson isn't going, although I think he will, but I think they're two players that are good options, especially if we don't end up signing Douglas Luiz. They're more defensive minded. Gomez is a really good player, and Andre has a lot of qualities as well. So that was for me being a bit of a data nerd and going through Premier League stats last season and seeing they were in the top 10 for duels and tackles and blocks and all those kind of things that are quite useful these days. Last question, much less serious, but Sean Murray, thank you very much. If you were a Forest manager, Emily Anderson, would you be wearing a tracksuit or Paul Smith?
Oh God, tracksuit, because if I was the Forest manager, I'd be all heart. I'd be no stats, I'd be vibes. So I'd be there in my tracksuit, running up and down the pitch, probably getting yellow cards for going out of my technical area, and you can't do that in a Paul Smith suit, can you? So 100% tracksuit. Oh, I wonder if that could happen. Wouldn't that be great? Just for one day. Just for one day. Come on, Forest. Make my dream come true.
Well, tough question for me because I love wearing tracksuits and dressing like a scruff. I've also got a couple of Paul Smith hoodies, so I'd probably combine the two and go for a Paul Smith hoodie over a tracksuit. Yeah.
It'd be kind of like smart but cash. Yeah, I can see it.
Exactly. Will, this is the question we got you on for, but would you be a tracksuit manager or a suit manager?
Oh, I'll take the freebies all day. You can use them when you get sacked. Inevitably, 2 months when I've not won a game. So yeah, I'll take the freebies, please.
I think that Paul Smith's rep's taken a bit of a battering Forest manager-wise, hasn't it? Because Ange was really wearing it. Steve Cooper wore it, and God, I love Steve Cooper. I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day. Why would any Forest fan have a problem with Steve Cooper? It drives me mad when I see stuff online questioning Steve Cooper. I think he did an unbelievable job, and I still think he's a really good manager. I think
club legend. He is a club legend. He goes down in history. He's done the impossible. So yeah.
Yeah, good manager who made a bad choice taking the Leicester job, like Ange did taking this job, but I don't know if he's a good manager or not. That's a whole other debate. So there we go. Right.
In Denmark as well, I think, Cooper. I think he started quite well at Brøndby. So
I've seen a few social media clips of him celebrating wins. So I certainly hope it works out there for him. Yeah.
Does he do the Cooper fist pumps? I hope he's not fist pumping those Danish fans, is he?
He's a PR merchant. Of course he does. Yeah, I think he does. Yeah.
Oh, the last one I saw, I just saw him walking around. I didn't see him doing the fist pumps.
No, fist pumps are just for us. He's all heart.
Yeah. I think Frank Lampard does them as well for the Cov fans. Every manager's stealing them now. I know.
And just talking of fashion quickly, I love the fact that Sean Dyche is still in shorts in November. Go on, Sean Dyche.
We shall leave it there. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, consider a membership or Patreon. You get early access to this because it's pre-recorded, or a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify would be great. I think we've got an international break quiz and then probably a couple of quiet days is the plan, and then we'll be back properly on Monday. Will, do you live in Nottingham's crime capital?
You hear those sirens? Yeah, I'm right in the city centre. So they're not after me, I promise.
It's gone off a few times, certainly, but all good. Will, anything you want to add? Any final thoughts before we go?
No, nothing really. Thank you for having me on. I hope everyone enjoys a stress-free 2 weeks without having to worry about going to watch the Forest game, and we can all just relax until we're back at home. Is it Malmo the next home game, right? So looking forward to that one already.
Yeah, a nice historic game, and we'll preview Liverpool more next week. But I wouldn't totally rule that one out. Obviously, it's a difficult one, but we'll talk a little more about that next week. Emily, anything for you before we go?
No, only that you said Emily Anderson about 3 times in this pod, and I was too polite to correct you. So
Well, I was
calm
too
that.
polite to
Get on
correct
it.
Franz Carr when he called me Mike
Yes, I
3
know,
times.
Mike. So I'm going to call you Mike. The other thing is, your lovely daughter, I know, was hoping to see me at the game on Sunday, and I wasn't there because my daughter was in a remembrance parade, so I missed the game. It was worth it because I was very proud. So for the first time this season, I wasn't at the City Ground for a game, and it was very weird watching it on the telly. But I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I'm not the unlucky charm. Therefore, I will be back at the City Ground for Malmo. But yeah, big hello to your lovely daughter.
She did say, is your nice friend going to be at the NAV? Totally discounting everyone else who's on the podcast regulars who were also normally there. But yeah, she enjoyed the game, and that was a big thing. I was dreading that because you dread when you take kids that, it's going to be a rubbish game. They're going to hate it. But she saw 2 goals up close. So it was great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Right. Thanks to Will. Thanks to Emily Williamson. Do join us tomorrow. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.